everyone, it's Pixelade here and welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you're new. So today we're talking about something that's been missing from The Sims 4 since the very beginning, disabilities. And honestly, at this point in the franchise, that gap is getting harder and harder to ignore. We've seen players ask for this feature for years. It's always on wish lists, forums, in tweets, but nothing's ever really happened. So the question is, why hasn't it been added yet? And could it still be coming in the future? So over the years, the community has shared so many thoughtful ideas about how disabilities could actually work in The Sims. Some of the most commonly requested features include wheelchair-bound Sims with accessible ramps and elevators so they're not blocked by stairs, walkers or canes for elderly or injured Sims. I'm pretty shocked that we still don't have the walkers for elderly Sims yet. Deaf Sims with a sign language skill that other Sims would need to learn to fully communicate. And blind Sims, maybe using white canes or seeing iPads. And I feel like stuff like that would open up a lot more storytelling possibilities and just make the game feel way more inclusive. As it stands right now, we can sort of simulate these things with mods or our imagination, but the game doesn't actually support any of it by default. Now, even though EA hasn't officially added most of this stuff, modders have definitely been doing the work. There is a massive list of mods and custom content that add disability representation to the game. And I want to give a huge shout out to snootysims.com for putting together a full list with download links. So some of the highlights include blind eye overlays, eye patches, white canes and mobility aids, hearing aids, cochlear implants, prosthetics and crutches, medical gear like feeding tubes, glucose monitors, oxygen masks and tracheostomy tubes, and even sign language pose packs, service dog vests, and rideable wheelchairs. And there is even a wheelchair mod by Necrodog that lets Sims actually use it like a bike. It's important to note though that these animations aren't perfect, but I think it's wild that a modder pulled that off before EA ever touched the idea. It's also worth pointing out, since that mod list came out, EA did add hearing aids to the base game, which was a really good step, but they don't do anything. There are no traits or no gameplay associated with them, they are just a visual accessory. But I think it's definitely, again, a great step in the right direction for inclusivity. So that next step, actually making it functional, is where this really needs to go. Now look, I love mods, I will always support modders, but they've seriously carried this game for way too long. I truly believe that mods shouldn't have to be a full replacement for this kind of representation, especially because console players don't even get access to mods. None of this content is available to them, and that's a huge chunk of the player base being left in the dark. That's why I feel like disability representation needs to be built into the game officially so that it's available to every single player and not just the ones on PC with mod access. But even if you are playing on PC, I still don't feel like you should have to rely on mods for this sort of thing. And just to show how relevant this topic still is, I came across a blog post recently from a player with a disability who basically said, hey, I love The Sims, I love the diversity in gender and sexuality and culture, but where are we? This post was made only 4 months ago, and this topic of disabilities has been a conversation for many, many years. They talked about wanting to make a sim that actually reflects them, not just in style or personality, but in their lived experience. They mentioned things like mobility aids, sensory traits, neurodivergent options, not as some novelty, but as a tool to tell real stories the way a lot of us already do in the game. And I thought that was such an important reminder that this conversation isn't old. People are still asking for this, hoping to be seen. And this is more than just checking a box. It's about giving players the freedom to tell their own stories fully. And as it stands right now, it's just not possible for a lot of people. But I want to be clear that if this ever does get added to the game, it can't just be tossed in last minute or treated like a gimmick. This has to be done right. We're talking about real people's lives here. This isn't a fantasy pack or something for occults. These are based on the lives of real people with real disabilities. disabilities, and disabilities come in so many forms. We have physical, sensory, mental, and every single one of them deserves to be represented without any sort of stereotypes or weird over-exaggerations. The last thing that I want to see is something like this turning into some watered-down gameplay quirk. This is not the kind of thing you just slap into the game with a trait and call it a day. That's it. There it is, Simmers. Enjoy it. No, it can't happen like that. If EA ever goes down this road, they have to involve the community. They have to talk to people who actually live with these conditions and really take the time to get it right. Because if they don't, it will feel hollow and it will be very offensive. Representation only matters if it's thoughtful. And if The Sims is going to keep calling itself a life simulator for everyone, then this has to be a part of the conversation. So has EA said anything about this directly? Well, kind of. All the way back in 2018, Sim Guru Grant, which is no longer employed at EA, actually tweeted quite a bit about this. He said they were actively pondering disability representation and even confirmed they were talking to real players with disabilities to get it right. He mentioned ideas like wheelchairs, deaf Sims, and even Simlish sign language, and said straight up that they wouldn't charge for this. That was a big deal at the time because it showed they weren't just brushing off the idea, they were trying to figure it out. But that was years ago now. 2018 may not seem like a long time ago, but that is 7 years now, and we haven't heard anything since. No follow-up, no teaser, no confirmation that it ever went into development. So while the intention was clearly there, it's not something that's moved forward publicly. And I think that's why people are still asking about it to this day. They've shown a general interest in inclusion. We've seen pronouns added. We have medical wearables now like glucose monitors and hearing aids. It's so nice seeing those things actually added to the game, and we even have body scars and stretch marks. So the Sims team has come a long way, but we still have a long way to go. But when it comes to actual disability gameplay, there's been no real confirmation, no roadmap, no major signal that it's being seriously explored. And let's be real, if they were to do it, they'd probably need to rework animation systems, maybe update routing logic, and rethink how a lot of core gameplay works, especially around traits and communication. I definitely don't think it would be an easy thing to do, but that doesn't mean it isn't worth doing. With new competitors like Paralives and even Inzoi building up momentum, EA is clearly watching what the community is gravitating toward, and we are actually seeing this in real time. I mean, one of The Sims' latest surveys is literally about features that Inzoi has, which is crazy, but they are competitors in the same market space, so these types of things are going to happen. And Paralives has already confirmed wheelchair and accessibility features as development goals, and that alone puts pressure on the Sims team to step it up. If the fire wasn't lit under the Sims team's behinds already, it definitely is now. And if The Sims 4 is still going strong over the next year or two, or if they're holding this back for maybe Project Renee or some future iteration of the game, whatever that might be, this is definitely one of those features that could show up. But it's only gonna happen if they actually listen, only if they do it right and with care and real input from people who know what this representation should actually look like. Now, there's one more thing that I want to bring up because I know this is gonna come up if EA does add disabilities officially. This is whether it should be a free update or something tied to paid DLC. And honestly, I really hope this stuff gets added for free through patches. This was first mentioned by Grant, and I have to say, I absolutely agree with him. I don't think putting something like this behind a paywall would be a good move, because representation should be accessible to everyone and not locked behind an expansion pack or game pack or whatever type of DLC it could be behind. But I also do get the other side of it as well. If they're gonna do this right and build out new gameplay, new animations, maybe even overhaul traits or routing, that's gonna take a lot of time and work. And I truly believe the Sims team needs to be paid for that, because at the end of the day, the Sims team works for EA. They're a company, they're a brand, they're a business, they make money. So they have to charge money in order to make money. So if this did end up being something that maybe mixes free cast assets or build fueled by items with optional gameplay upgrades, maybe a part of a pack, I wouldn't be surprised. It definitely wouldn't be something I prefer, but I could see it happening. But still, if they're serious about inclusion, I hope at least the base level representation does make it into the game for free, and any extra gameplay is done in a way that doesn't feel exploitative. I'm curious on what you guys think about this whole entire topic, if it's something you want to see or don't want to see, and how you want them to tackle this in a way that's right. Do you believe Disabilities will ever make it into The Sims 4? Or are we gonna have to wait for Project Renee or The Sims 5, if it even ever exists sometime in the future, and hope that they finally do it justice? Share all of your thoughts down in the comment section below, but that is gonna be it from me for now with this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Take care and happy life simming.